In May 2012, a major tasting took place in Europe. 100 of the greatest wines ever produced were assembled, including all of the first growths of Bordeaux going back into the 1800s. The list of wines was enough to leave any serious wine lover speechless. The accomplished tasters set out to find the very best wine amongst all these legends, and when the ballots were cast, the judges were unanimous that the best wine in the world was the 1974 Martha's Vineyard from Heitz. It beat out the 1929 Petrus and the 47 Cheval Blanc, which came second and third, respectively. Today, the second generation of the family, Kathleen and her brother David, are taking the winery that their parents created to a whole new level. But it all started with her father's curiosity about winemaking.
He was originally from the Midwest, grew up on a farm, and World War II and the Air Force brought him to California. And so when the war was over, he went back to UC Davis and got a bachelor's and master's in winemaking. Okay. So he was definitely a winemaker's winemaker back in those days.
After studying winemaking, Joe went on to work as the right-hand man of famed enologist Andrei Chelachev. Later, he was to make a major contribution to the art and science of winemaking in California by founding the Department of Enology at Fresno State University. Finally, in 1961, Joe and Alice decided to purchase a small 8-acre vineyard just south of St. Helena, which marked the beginning of the Heitz legacy.
We own close to 1,000 acres in the Napa Valley, but a lot of it's not planted to vineyards. We have a farming operation, so we sell grapes to other wineries too, but we farm close to 370, close to 400 acres.
The winery is hidden in the hills on the outskirts of St. Helena. It's an old characterful building with a winemaking history dating back to the late 1800s.
A lot of the old buildings, like the one that you're currently in, were built on gravity flow. They didn't have electricity, so it was all done with hand pumps when they moved wine from a tank to a tank.
Right.
So they would crush the grapes up here on the second floor, and then on the first racking, they run the juice down by gravity flow.
It's in here that Napa's first single vineyard designated wine was created, called Martha's Vineyard. Joe and Alice Heitz thought that the fruit from Martha's was so spectacular that they wanted to recognize the vineyard on the label. This benchmark wine is now flanked by other single vineyard Cabernets called Trailside and Bella Oaks, which are also spectacular in their own right.
Well, all of our Cabernets are 100% varietal, using just the Cabernet Sauvignon grape. So that's something that's particular to Heitz wine cellars. Also the French oak aging that I mentioned. But again, it's trying to get the certain flavors from the distinctive vineyards that we have and to get that overall balance, softness, and purity of flavors.
The Heitz label stands out amongst the thousands of other California wineries, which is a marketer's dream. But it wasn't like the original design was created by an expensive artist.
As kids, we were drawing, little crayon pictures of what the label would look like, So there was different versions of grapevines and forts, but it was actually David who drew a little stick man holding up a glass of wine. I think he had seen his parents swirling and checking for quality, and so that's what they took to a commercial artist, and that's been our label ever since.
There are many great stories about the Heitz family, like Joe's refusal to let Robert Parker taste his wines from barrel because he didn't agree that wine should be rated before bottling. Today, the winery is unquestionably one of the old original classic first growths of Napa, and an older vintage of Heitz Martha's Vineyard can run over $1,000 a bottle, although that certainly wasn't always the case.
But we still have the very original price list, and they were actually $1.99.
$1.99.
And what was interesting is the Chardonnay was more expensive.